I was definitely a live and let live kind of guy. I never really thought too much about anything but the here and now. I was definitely a beer drinking, Harley riding, and rock and roller. And so thinking about, what happens when you pass really didn't register in my mind. I was certainly a pleasure maximizing unit, as I like to call it. But that kind of changed. And one of the first steps towards that change was my friendship with this gentleman named Gil Harris. Everyone called him Pinky. I would walk in the old Kings Park Psychiatric Center most every day, and I would come across Gil sitting on a park bench. See, the psychiatric center closed down in 1996, and since then it was converted into a state park. And both Gil and I worked there for quite some time. Gil spent a career there. I was there just for a few years, but it definitely made an impact on me. So anytime I saw him, it was like a fraternity getting together and chatting about old times. And Gil, he was a raconteur. That's a French word for a teller of tall tales. And boy, did he have a lot of them. And I really enjoyed listening to him. He really had this infectious grin, and he always looked on the brighter side of life. And yeah, sometimes I'd go to the park just to see him. I wouldn't feel like walking today, but I knew he would be on that park bench. But I also knew that, he had been retired for a long time, and perhaps he might need something more than that park bench. So when several days went by that I didn't see him, I was kind of worried. So I called him up right away, and he picked up, and he said that everything was fine, and I was very grateful for that. But he said he got a part-time job. And yeah, I thought that was great. He definitely needed something more than just, sitting at that park bench. He had been retired for such a long time, and he needs to interact with people. And so he told me that he got a job working for this elderly lady who was pretty much bedridden, and his wife Madeline was her cook, and he would do odd jobs for her and bring her food and chat with her, make sure everything's okay. And I thought that was great, and he assured me that he would be back in the park bench not too long. He wanted to get settled first, so that was it. And after a couple weeks went by, I didn't see him at the bench anymore. So I called him up again. I asked him, are you getting adjusted to the job? Is everything okay? And he told me, yeah, everything's great, but the job turned out to be a little bit more than what he was expecting. The lady, she could barely see, so he went out and bought her these very large cards. So he would play cards with her, and she'd always beat him, he said. She may not be able to see too well. She certainly can't walk, but boy, she is sharp as a tack. And so Gil certainly liked playing cards with her, and I'm sure regaled her with all of his tales and all of his stories. So he had a new audience, so I'm sure he was really having a good time with it. And so I told him, I said, "Wow, that's great. I'm sure the extra money helped." And he told me, no, he doesn't charge her for playing cards with her or talking with her. He likes to do that, and he doesn't feel that would be right. That's so typical Gil. It really is. That's the type of person he was. And so that was all good. So he assured me he'd be back soon as things settled down. And then a few weeks later, I saw him back at the bench again. And I was so excited to see him. And so I go running over, "Gil, how you doing?" And I'm kind of clowning around with him. But something was wrong. Like that infectious grin and that twinkle in his eye, it was very dim. And so I asked him what was wrong and if something he wanted to share with me. And he told me that he'd been taking care of the elderly lady, and he went up to her room one evening, and she was frightened, and like tears were coming down her eyes. And Gil rushed over to her, held her hand, and asked her what was wrong. And the lady said she's at the bus stop and she's frightened. And Gil, without missing a beat, asked her, "Well, are there nice people there?" And she looked around and she said, "Yeah, there are nice people here." And so He said, oh, you have nothing to worry about. And so that's the way it went for a few days, is that he would go up in her room and she'd be smiling, and she'd be like, she was a piano teacher and she taught many people, how to play the piano, and even some great pianists, even made them better players. And she would rock back and forth the way piano players would do, like Ray Charles. You remember Ray Charles? He would go back and forth on the piano, and that's the way he described it. And that went on for several days. And each day she said that more people are at the bus stop, and they're beautiful people. And that's the way it went for several days. And then one day he went up there to bring her food. And she was sitting very quietly, like very peaceful like. Because that was so important to Gil. Like when she was frightened, he knew that was no way to be. So he was just so grateful for her to be happy, and because he knew she was getting ready to pass, and to be happy the way she was, and now to be in this peaceful state, Gil felt peace. And so he asked her, what's going on? And she said, the bus is coming and she's going to be leaving soon. And Gil asked, do you know where you're going? And she said no, but she knows it's going to be a beautiful place. And of course, Gil asked if he could come too. And she said no, but because you and Madeline were so nice to me, when your time is ready, I'll talk to the bus driver and I'll ask him to save a seat for you both. The lady died that evening. And it's not like it's the first time Gil had seen a person go through passing. And he did find some peace in it because she was at peace. And he kind of laughed to me and said that, at least he's got that going for him. He's got that seat saved. And a few months later, Gil took that bus ride. And I'm sure that when Madeline's time, what she has to do is finish, that she'll be on that bus too and be with Gil. But in the meantime, I'm sure Gil is with the old lady playing cards, and maybe she lets him win every now and then, and telling his stories. And so that's what I think of Gil now. And God bless him.